Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Site Club and from the TomNumbers show. And I'm here with the magnificent tarot. Well, sorry, I'm gonna cut that. I'm gonna start there again. JANINE MORIGEAU. So we will start again. Hey everyone. Good evening. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers. Welcome to Site Club and to the TomNumbers show. And I've got the magnificent JANINE MORIGEAU and the wonderful Michael Jaco. How are both of you?
I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah, I'm doing great. Good to be here.
Good. Well, I wanted to kick the show off, JANINE, something we spoke about just before, and the phrase, the calm before the storm. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do some numbers on that because it ties into, I think, where your question is leading. So A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. That's simple gematria. 148 is simple gematria. Donald J. Trump is simple gematria. Emmett Brown, the time traveler, is 148, and time traveler is 148 as well. But the calm before the storm comes to 231. Okay, 231 comes to a calm before the storm. That actually comes to a date, which is the 4th of August, which is coming up very soon. And there's been some very interesting comms. There's been a lot of leaders stepping down, as we've noticed. And Boris Johnson here in the UK, famously, well, he's stepped down, but I think he's coming back somehow. That's what the papers seem to be wanting him to already come back before he's gone. And when he did his official kind of last Prime Minister's speech, he ended his speech with a famous tagline from the Terminator film. And he said, "Hasta la vista, baby." And I've been talking about Terminator and Terminator 2 for a long, long time. And in Terminator 2, there's a famous part of it called Judgment Day, because it's Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And Judgment Day is August 29th. But there's a part where Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about a timeline in the Terminator 2 film. Interesting enough, as well, Terminator is 135. Sorry, Terminator 2 is 135, and that's also Ivana Trump. And Protection is also 135, Ivana Trump. And we spoke about that in the last show, saying that we think she's kind of maybe into some kind of protection. Mm-hmm. But Ivana Trump comes to 135, comes to Protection, which comes to Terminator 2. So Boris Johnson says this live on television, globally. And I'm thinking, all this time I've been talking about Terminator 2 and Judgment Day is coming up, and Boris Johnson quotes it in Parliament. And President Trump has done comms before on Judgment Day, because Robert Patrick, who was the actor that played, I don't know if you've seen the film, Michael and JANINE, but there's a silver Terminator. He's like a high-grade one. He can turn into kind of metallic objects. But the guy that played him was a gentleman called Robert Patrick. And he was actually a veteran when President Trump was in office still, during 2020. He was on, I think, in the White House lawn or something similar to it. And he had Robert Patrick on the front row with some vets, and they're all kind of bikers. And he went, "We've got Robert Patrick, the T-1000 from Terminator 2. And he's like, "It's there." And now Boris is kind of bringing it back round and mentioning it. And in this clip where Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, the good one in the part 2, in the Terminator 2, he gives a timeline, and he says on August 4th, he says that the Skynet funding bill is passed. Now, Skynet comes to 94, which is John, and it's also White Hat. So I'm wondering, is there going to be some kind of funding that may be passed? Because we've seen what looks to be part of that with the Zimbabwe gold coin. In the last few days, it's been announced that Zimbabwe has, to stop their hyperinflation, which they suffered back in 2008, to stop it happening again, because it was kind of taking off, they've started to issue gold coins to people at the banks. Well, the banks have issued it are issuing it to the customers, to the clients, to the public, which I think is fantastic. So I'm wondering if that's a soft disclosure on it. And I'm wondering if there might be another piece of legislation that leads to funding, but also, more importantly, on the date that equals the calm before the storm, which was your question. So there's a few things there. Maybe we can look at 2 or 3 pieces. Maybe look at the Zimbabwe gold coin. Is there going to be another form of funding, and what do we see about calm before the storm?
Okay, so the Zimbabwe situation, I think you're partly right about what you're saying about it, but there's a few more things before that fully goes forward as like a new money system. Is that what you're
Okay.
getting? Like it's going to take a little more. There's a few more things hoops they have to jump before it'll actually, but it looks like it's on the way.
Okay.
So on the way to being, but maybe not by August 4th, because we're asking about that date.
Yes.
But the thing I got around the date is really interesting. Something to do with Trump, something
Okay.
to do with Mr. T and shocking revelations, things coming out that we've already known. I'm thinking, something to do with the shenanigans that happened in November.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can't really say the words here, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
announced or it coming out that who really won that competition kind of thing.
Okay. Interesting. Huh. And that comes to the 4th of August comes to 231, the calm before the storm.
Okay.
The Statue of Liberty as well, interesting enough. And the President Trump, or Magic President Trump. Yeah, interesting. Just any thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, I think that the calm, we're kind of like in that calm. The storm itself is going to be, if you look back on when the Allies came into Italy, World War II and other parts, landing and stuff like that, that will be the storm.
Okay.
So I think that's coming. We haven't even seen that yet. A lot of people think that aren't we already in a storm? No, it's going to get a lot worse, unfortunately. And that's what that's what I've seen, and I think that that's where we're headed. Now the Zimbabwe coin is interesting, because I think that many currencies around the world are going to move to gold, and that basically takes away the darkies, the baddies, their method of controlling the world's currencies and so forth like that. So I think that more and more we're going to see more and more countries start to move towards gold, like we did with Russia. Zimbabwe's doing it now. Yeah, and it'll continue.
It looks like I was speaking to Charlie a couple of weeks ago about it, and he was saying that it's all kind of starting to happen with BRICS. So Brazil, Russia, as you said, India, China, and South Africa, and then I guess within the African continent you got Zimbabwe. And I did the numbers on BRICS. It comes to 51, comes to Jacara. So I thought that was interesting, because Jacara is the global version. Nasara is in America, but the global version is Jacara, which Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Zimbabwe are all would all be classified as not America. So I thought that was interesting as well. Anything on that, Janine, in regards to BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, being, the beginnings of Jacara?
Well, this is about abundance for all.
Okay.
Really well aspected. That's why I'm going to read it that way.
Yeah.
It can be about other things, but it's also about a lot of money coming into a large community. Okay, moving out of troubled water. So that would make sense to a reevaluation of what their money's worth based on now a gold standard, as opposed to putting them in that arena with the corrupt other system we know is going down. So they take them. I don't even know why they didn't do this a long time ago. I guess there's a lot of logistics to it, but what you just said, just mind blown, right? I'm mind blown, because as you were saying it just makes sense. Or was it Michael who said it? I can't remember who just said it, but it was Michael actually. As soon as you shift and take on your own and create your own money system on a gold standard or a metal standard or whatever, you don't have to be beholden to those creeps that have been undervaluing your currency. Yeah. That makes so much sense. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, isn't it?
And that's what this
India just launched international bullion exchange, where they're going to trade gold and silver. So it's moving. It's all moving in that direction. So India, they love jewelry there. They're very big into jewelry. So I think they're gonna have a really good time with the gold and silver exchange there. It's gonna do really well. So yeah, it's all moving in the right direction. You know, it's the old system is being destroyed. So there's been landings already, if you would think of World War II, and there's been inroads made, you know, baddies been taken down here and there. Now you say Boris Johnson is basically being tapped, because I think a lot of these guys are just, you know, sleight of hand. Oh, I'm stepping down, but looks like he's going to NATO to head up NATO, and he's on tap for that. So it's just, you know, little shell game where you put the little corn or shell in the cups and you move them around, and it's like, where did it go? It's like, oh, it's over here. Yeah. It's all smoke and mirrors with these guys until they're taken down. They all have to be taken down. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, talking of the Jasara and the abundance, Janine, that you saw in the cards, and so I don't know if I became aware of fractional reserve banking probably 17, maybe 20 years ago, somewhere between that time frame, because there was a book written by Ed Griffin called The Creature from Jekyll Island. I don't know if you've heard of that, Michael and Janine. And Scott did an episode with him just in the last month, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so I did the numbers. So his book is The Creature from Jekyll Island, which is describing the banking cartel, you know, the fractional reserve banking. And it's a well-known thing now. It's been out for, you know, a while. But I did the numbers on the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, because that's the name he gave them, and he titled his book that. That comes to 310. And on the flip side, the quantum financial system comes to 310. So the very thing that they kind of the polar opposite of the quantum financial system is the Creature from Jekyll Island, which was brilliantly highlighted and written about by Ed Griffin, comes to 310. And the Creature from Jekyll Island comes to 310. And there's also a biblical reference of abundance to the people. So Malachi, the last book in the Old Testament, Malachi 3:10 talks about the windows of heaven being opened and pouring out a blessing upon the people, that it's too much for them to receive, which in my mind sounds like Jasara and Nasara. And the interesting thing about window is 88, which is Trump, and Windows is Trump's, but it's also currency and it's also quantum. And so you've got the quantum financial system, which is all to do with currency and wealth. So I thought that was an interesting thing that Scott kind of reminded me of just a couple of weeks ago with the Ed Griffin part. And I'm glad that Janine's got, you know, seeing the abundance again with the whole thing with Zimbabwe.
Yeah. It's beautiful. So Janine, I have a question. I had a guest on the show, made some, and you'll be interested in this as well, Tom, and maybe you can do some numbers on these. She said that one of the reasons the crop circles happen in England was because there's inner earth beings that are very advanced in England. And also so we can look at that. But the other thing that really came to I don't know why it came to my mind, but I've been having dreams of Canada, going into Canada and like trying to stop bad things and happening there in Canada. But there in Vancouver, I feel that it is a magical place. And Haida Gwaii, like you were talking about, Janine, that area is just absolutely magical. I believe there's very advanced beings underneath that area as well. So maybe we can look at that.
Cool. Let's start with that first thing you were talking about.
How the UK and crop circles and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you want to ask it?
Is that the case? The reason why the crop circles happen so much in England, of course, they're not happening now as much, but the reason why they happen so much was because there's advanced inner earth beings in England.
Yes. So there's a big yes. I got recently that some of those circles were made maybe from other dimensionals, maybe not necessarily off planet, but not necessarily on planet. So that could be like living dimensionally different, which could be like underground. So that kind of ties into what I recently read about the latest crop circle, but you're getting a solid yes there on what you said.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Directly relates to those creatures or energies. And let's look at that second one.
Yeah, the Vancouver, Haida area.
And
So
so we're
such a magical area, all the way up into the mountains there. It's just like one of the most exquisite areas I've ever been to.
Yeah, I want to build a shack out there, so I'll be inviting all of you guys.
Oh, I will
All
come.
the partners
I will
on-
come.
I'll show you
As
around.
soon as the government of Canada goes bye-bye, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look.
That will be a celebration time. Yes. And
Mhm.
you guys can come here and we can all go there. It'll be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
I look forward to
I'll
those
be
days.
jumping in that pool you got back there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because it's really hot here. Oh, it's like a heat wave.
Really?
It's hot here as well.
Yeah, we're like 40 degrees like Celsius, which is really hot for us.
Well, the good thing is what I'm seeing is on the other side of this. Well, maybe not so good, but the winter is going to be like a lot colder than usual. So I think that we're actually going into a period of a mini ice age period, and the high temperatures we're experiencing right now is basically a last like spike, and then it's going to start to slowly go down for many years and get a lot colder.
That's what Cliff High's been saying for a long time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, this is interesting. So there's a big yes, first of all, that there's very magical energies and entities there, and maybe even ancient, but there's also sort of hybrids. So coming from other planetary, I think there might be a gateway around the Haida Gwaii. That's where I saw a lot of off-world activity right over my head, in particular one night, but off and on while I lived there. But in particular, this one night. But yeah, so they seem to come back and forth, and they could even live amongst the people there. So amongst the communities, they literally intermingle. Now that's interesting, because when you go to some of these remote areas in like northwestern Canada, so Haida Gwaii's northwestern point of Canada, but there's some other areas, the Skeena, and there's all these off the Vancouver Island. It's all really interesting and very magical. I feel like that's what it's talking about. Sometimes you meet people that don't seem very human. I'm going to tell you that. They seem otherworldly and very spiritually in touch. Sometimes they're real hermits too. I know several people, you have to really go looking for them. Everybody knows about them, but you got to go looking for them. They're like deeply connected people, but they don't come out in public very often. I think they're literally living in those areas too.
And they don't appear just to anyone. If your vibration's high, I think I experienced a Lemurian when I was in Mount Shasta one time. I talked to him for a little bit. Yeah. So and he was like white skin, white hair. The things that he talked about were like just, it was like magical. He was a magical person. So at first, when I first saw him, I thought, is that a man or a woman? And then he spoke to me, and I was like, okay, a man. But yeah, it's interesting. I think there's Elven and all kind of stuff that we're going to be some of us will be exposed to in the near future as the energies change.
Yeah. I definitely saw a lot of fairy circles. Last time I was in the Haida Gwaii with Ashley, we both noticed there was, those big circles. So you'd have a mushroom in almost a perfect circle, a mushroom ring. And you would, once you get inside that ring, it feels like you're in an altered universe. It's really weird, beautiful, but a little spooky sometimes. I think we were in amongst, the elementals.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Beautiful. Very nice. Very nice.
Nice.
And Janine, I've been having these reoccurring dreams about, like I said, going into Canada, and I don't always remember all of them, but just before the show, they started really coming in. And you're involved in helping to push in that that space, because I think the dream world is real sometimes. You're involved in that space too. I think we're working together, and other people are working together that we all know to change, that what's going on, to basically take the baddies out. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Janine, when you were talking about the crop circles, when Michael asked that question, so if you do the crop circle, hang on, let me do that again. So crop is 52, which is heart, which is earth. So that kind of makes sense. It's also ship, but and then circles 50, which is America, which is Donald, which is Paul, which is Eileen, which is also fight. And President Trump says, continue to fight. But if you do crop circles, it comes to 121, which is Revelation, which is Golden Jubilee, Second Coming, Gotham City for Batman and Robin, which has come up with another code, which I'll mention in a second. But if you do the crop circles, or magic crop circles, it comes to 154, which comes to, actually I can't say it, but it says it comes to tarot by your, so that comes to 154. So and then you'd said about fairy circle. So fairy comes to 59, which is actually Joker. Joker card, top card. If you have two of them, it takes you to 78 Kennedy. But circle again is 50. So fairy circle comes to 109, which comes to the word 17, comes to Zapruder, comes to Diana Spencer, comes to Cyclop. So I thought that was cool. And it comes to trillion, as in the Zimbabwe notes. So fairy circle. Something else that has come up recently with some comments from President Trump is his golf course in Bedminster. So Bedminster, New Jersey. And I'd seen it before, but I wasn't really clear on kind of everything about it. But something caught my attention. So about 3 weeks ago now, there was a lady, and I can't think of her name. It's quite a unique name, but she's a presenter on the channel OAN, that kind of Patriot Network channel. And she starts off, they're sitting in President Trump's property, Bedminster, because it's the golf course that he owns. And I didn't know this, but I know it now. And I think it's worth telling the audience. She says, well, not a lot of people know this, but this was John DeLorean's home many years ago. And President Trump says, yeah, a long time ago. And John DeLorean was the owner of the cars DeLorean. And DeLorean is the time machine car in Back to the Future. And I've been talking about Back to the Future a lot, and this is what this is, 88 miles per hour, because 88 is Trump. If you can see it, MPH is miles per hour. Comes to John Kennedy time travel. And so President Trump actually owns the former property of John DeLorean. And that's where the DeLorean, he's the one that it's named after him, the DeLorean time machine, the car in Back to the Future. And DeLorean 74, which comes to tarot. 74 comes to Jesus, it comes to gematria, it comes to Messiah, it comes to London, it comes to English. And so two of the films, you got the Terminator films with President Trump a while ago, and then recently with Boris, and now another Back to the Future reference with President Trump. And so people probably think, why does TomNumbers always go on about Terminator and Back to the Future? Well, there you go. And I didn't know this, but it's almost like she was saying, not a lot of people know this, but now you do, and you need to pay attention to this, Tom. And so and you then mentioned a family called the Copperthwaite family that owned it back in 1917. And 1917 is the year that Kennedy was born. And you'll remember when President Trump was taking on the world and the press early 2020, when everything changed, he kept referring to the Spanish flu of 1917. But that's actually incorrect, because it's the Spanish flu of 1918. But he was referring to the year that Kennedy was born. And I think he's also making reference to this place in Bedminster, because it's all tied with Back to the Future. And the other interesting thing about it is if you do Bedminster, that comes to 109, which just comes to Fairy Circle, which Janine just brought up. 109 is Zapruder, 17, etc. And then New Jersey, the state that it's in, is 124, which actually comes to the word gigawatts, the way they spell it in Back to the Future, and it's the power source. But when you add them together, Bedminster, New Jersey, It comes to 233, which comes to gold-backed digital currency, Follow the White Rabbit, The 10 Days of Darkness, and John Fitzgerald Kennedy.
Wow.
And it's, yeah, I'm like, I think we're in the Matrix, Michael. I think we're in a dream, you know. And there it is. And I didn't know this, but I do know it now. And then I looked into this little bit more, and I was just feeling like you do with your intuition, and Janine with your intuition with your cards, and something about this coppice weight. So I looked at that, and then I was thinking, and it used to be a farm. So it used to be a farm. Then the Copperswaite family had it, the Copperswaite Farm, and then it was owned by John DeLorean, and then President Trump turned it into a golf course. So the actual technical name of the golf course is Trump National Bedminster, and that comes to 283. And I looked at this, and I was playing around with the numbers, and that comes to 245, which is Tom Sidney Bushnell, and then 38 is the remaining figure, which is gold, but it's also farm. And so my question, Janine, is did I own it before the Copperswaite? Was I a farmer of that land? I'm just wondering. Seems a bit self-indulgent, but I'm just wondering. It came to me, and I'm like, I don't know, there's something about that place, something about Back to the Future, and why I get these codes. So I'm just wondering what the cards say on that.
Well, we got a soft yes.
Okay.
So I have a feeling you might have either worked on the farm or had something to do with the farm. So you were in the neighborhood of the farm.
Yeah.
Maybe not literally on the farm. And we've got the world card. So when you keep saying Back to the Future and keep referencing that time machine, I keep feeling like you're picking up on what happened first, and now we're in the now, and then we go back to, I have a feeling we're going back and forth. I've had a weird feeling that the time lines keep crossing over right now. I know it sounds insane, but that's why I think we're noticing weird things about movies we used to watch. The scenes are different.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we're at a really weird time when it's getting wavery. That's the only thing I can think of, wavy timelines. And sometimes I'm losing hours in a day, or for instance, this morning, and I wonder if anyone else is feeling this. I felt distinctly like time stood still for many hours, because I got up at sort of the usual time around 7 a.m. And then it took hours and hours to get to 10 a.m. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I felt like I lived a whole day and a half, and then it was 10 a.m. finally.
Yeah.
I got so much done, you can't even fathom. So it's like, didn't make any sense to me. I think we've got some funny things going on with timelines.
Yeah, it feels like that. It does, because it seems to, I don't know about you guys, but it seems to feel like it changes almost daily. You know, I get a huge download on a number of things, and then I'm like, okay, that's what, and then something else will come up, and it seems to shift or park to the side, and then it might get kind of come back out of nowhere sometimes. So yeah, the feeling of time and linear time is really kind of feeling a bit strange right now. Yeah, for sure. Talking of weird things, so I think you mentioned it when you saw off world things in the hideaway. So I've been recently looking at a lot of, well, Mark Atwood put me onto this. I'd mentioned before on shows that when I was in the States last year, I saw clearly what appeared to be some kind of, well, not stars, because they were flashing on and off. Now I'm beginning to see ones moving, and it's quite easy. I saw one tonight, actually. So I look up at this. Mark says, look at a star and just kind of give it intention, and just say, almost like the thought of, I'm ready. And I see they're not planes, they're these, and they're not satellites, because they're going too slowly. And sometimes they move, sometimes they curve, and sometimes they stop, and sometimes they flash, and then they'll go off again. But it looks like they're, from what I can gather, maybe scout ships. Mark seems to think that's what they are. And then sometimes they're really bright ones. So I was with a friend the other night, and she'd not seen them before. And I said, well, let's just do what Mark says. Look at the sky, find a star, kind of give it good intention. And then literally within 2 minutes, this bright light appeared and started moving across. It was quite low in the sky. It moved across, and she checked it. It wasn't a satellite. It wasn't a plane, because she's quite au fait with that in this area. She tracks them all the time. She's like, no, it definitely wasn't either of those two things. And then it got bright, almost kind of like winking, and then it very deliberately, but not too quickly, within a few seconds, it dimmed off and kind of went out again. We saw some others later that night. That's how Mark describes them. He says, just kind of focus on an object in the sky, give it some thanks, and so I'm ready, and they start to appear. What was your experience like in the Haida Gwaii?
There was a whole fleet, and they were in formation, but they kept changing formation and moving so fast. All of a sudden, they'd look really big on the horizon, and then they moved back so fast they had to move thousands of miles or something, because now they're little tiny dots, and then they get really close again. But it was too fast for anything that you could say was a craft made by human. And also the formation would change, and then we lost. So my daughter's father and I, we were still together then, and we were staring up at these things. And he's not necessarily red pill or thinks quite like we do. Like, he's pretty smart about the government being bad news and whatever, but not to the extent we are. And he was watching too, and we can still discuss this to this day. So this would have been in 91.
Okay.
So 92. And they were moving around, and then we lost all this time because now it's morning. So we started watching them after Raven was tucked in. So she's just a baby.
Yeah.
She might have been in bed by 8, got dark maybe by 9 or 10. We watched it, and then it was morning all of a sudden, and neither of us remember anything other than we're in the very same spot, staring at these things. And now it's twilight or morning light, and the sun was coming up, and we're like, what happened to the night? We don't know.
Wow.
We don't know what happened. So we lost time staring at these things. Yeah, it was wild. But
have you had any sorry, go on, Janine.
I just pulled some cards on what you were talking about.
Yes.
And so we're being watched because they know we're moving into a time when we're going to really need them. So humans are about to face some really scary things.
Okay.
In particular, if you're a fear-based person, I mean, I say bring it on, but you know what I mean? Not everybody's open-minded like that. But anyway, we're about to face some really big, scary events. And we're going into a time, and that's where that calm before the storm. I think the storm's upon us really quick here, and it's going to get really hard. And they realize that for a lot of people, not everybody. Some people are looking forward to it, but it's going to get hard for some people. And this was their intention, the card I pulled, loving and nurturing. So the ones that are around the earth that maybe we're seeing a lot more of are hovering around, watching the events, watching the human race through this big shift that's coming. And also, I think not only are they watching out of curiosity, but nurturing intention. So they're putting intentions out there, kind of like guardian angels or something is the feeling I.
Wow. Thank you. Have you seen any things like that, Michael? Any experiences with lights or ships or anything with your work and your experiences?
Yeah, I was kayaking over a period of like 24 hours on Lake Tahoe, and I was coming towards the end of it, and I saw a ship, massive ship over the lake. It just kind of like, I just looked up, and there it was. And then the next thing I know, I'm like sitting in my boat looking forward, and I was like, what? And I looked up, and it was going whoop, and it just took off. And I was like, so sometimes little pieces come through. And so I was on board that ship, and and they were telling me about, what's going on, because somehow I'm a commander. So they were updating me, and I was getting an update on what's coming. So that was a couple of years ago, but I think that anyone that wants to have those observations, you all you need to do is just go out into the night sky and just have a sense of, you want to experience them.
Yeah.
And almost without, I've always been, it depends on where you are too, of course, but when I was in Sedona, we would go out. It didn't matter what night you would go out. You could just like think, and there they were, they pop. And it's I think a lot of people are like that. Some people can pull them in. Some people have experiences with them often. And again, it might be dependent upon the area where you're at. I talk to a lot of people like you guys do, and they tell me all kinds of stories like this. How all they do is just go out and they start thinking about it, and then boom, there it is. And there's lots of groups that do that in different locations where there's lots of sightings. So, that the future, we will have more involvement with them. I think back during Atlantean times, before the fall of Atlantis, there was lots of involvement, definitely back in Lemurian times. But that kind of leads into what Janine was saying, that some of those off-worlders are involved with the inner earth as well. So there's been that long-term, I think, communication that's been going on. And as we move forward, we'll start to see more and more of that start to materialize. More people have sightings. And I mean, we're hearing all the U.S. Navy, pilots are starting to come out, and all kind of military people are coming out now. So I think it's been given the green light to start to expose it more and more and more. And so as that happens and people start to go, well, maybe it's real, that opens those doorways within the consciousness to allow it to come through.
Yeah.
Talking of
up on it, I think that energy picks up on your openness.
Yeah. Talking of future and energy, so I was looking at one of the other films I've always mentioned is Tenet by Christopher Nolan, who's a white hat director, and some things dawned on me just this afternoon, early evening, when I was going through it. But Christopher Nolan has his company is called Syncopy, Syncopy, Syncopy. It's his production company. But someone did a little video short on YouTube and pointed some things out which I thought was interesting. Syncopy actually comes to 119, which comes to Nikola Tesla, and he's done a film about Nikola Tesla in The Prestige, which kind of is a soft disclosure on time travel, on cloning and dimensional things. And David Bowie was in that. Actually, he played Nikola Tesla, which was an interesting choice. And this little short video posed the question that Christopher Nolan's company, it doesn't have a phone number, it doesn't have an email, it doesn't have an address. It's got 4 members. That's Christopher Nolan, his wife Emma Thompson, who produces the films with him, and then 2 other unknown people. But it's $1 billion company because he's kind of the biggest box office movie maker out there. But they were postulating the question that Syncopy could be a thing that's actually coming from the future to us. And I was thinking about this while you were talking about the future, Michael, and maybe we could look at it, Janine. Is Christopher Nolan somehow connected to the future? Has he come from the future to produce these films? Because just in a 3D kind of looking at the way he constructs these films, it's almost impossible to kind of fathom and work them out the way he does. But as you kind of look through the kind of 4th and 5th dimensional lens, it becomes a little clearer, but there's still works with genius in that. I'm just wondering if he's actually from the future in some way to produce these films.
A soft yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And a 3 of wands. So there's a little more details there that would describe it. I don't know. What, so I'll keep looking here. The 3 of Pentacles. So that's interesting. Possibly they were made in the future. And then somehow they're brought to us, because this almost looks like the part that maybe needs adjustment to what you're saying is that they come from the future.
Yeah.
So they make them there and then somehow bring them to the now.
Okay. Yeah, that makes,
render them in the now.
Okay, that's a good fit. So he's
Literally
received. So they're
plug in.
coming from the future, and he's the one that receives it and then produces it here, so we can watch it now. Okay.
And maybe they give them technology. And then this card was underneath, which is like, so that's future technology and or galactic helpers or future selves, this card. So I feel like maybe he's getting help and he's just Earth sort of vessel they're using
Okay.
in this so people can watch it. So it's not really him, but he's the one that they're going through.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And he, in this film Tenet, he shows it's called inversion, and that, you know, we've had the whole thing of inversion, but inversion in this sense is talking about reversing the flow of time, reversing entropy. And so it's bringing something from the future, like you've described, you know, the actual film, the information of the film, and the film describes inversion as a process, bringing it back. So you've got the two timelines. You've got one going forward, and then the exact opposite, but it's coming from the future and working backwards. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? That's a ace
That's
card?
a big yes. That's a big excited yes. It's like, yes.
Okay. Got it. Okay. That's probably a clearer way to put it. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is the word inversion comes to 125, which comes to John Kennedy, also comes to a dark to light, but it also comes to time travel. But they do make the distinction in the film that it's not time travel. It's this reverse of the flow of time. But I still think time travel is possible, but it's almost like they're kind of showing they make the distinction, but it feels like a kind of, you're traveling in reverse. That's literally what it is. You're traveling in reverse with inversion, but the numbers are identical.
Planets do that. They call it retrograde. So
yeah.
in their orbit, they're seen to go backwards, and then they regain forward motion. But the retrograde will last about 3 weeks, and depending on the planet, some of them 3 years, some of them even longer if it's a faraway planet. So they do all go what they call retrograde every once in a while, and it's the energies, it throws everything off from their usual flow. But it's good because retrogrades can bring up all kinds of unresolved things and make you go back over things that you hadn't finished. And if you look at them in a positive way, you can utilize the energy.
That's a cleansing process.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. When you said about the retrograde in the planets, I immediately thought of Superman. So the one with Christopher Reeves, the first Superman, when there's nuclear missiles fired, and it starts a chain reaction of earthquakes in California because Lex Luthor, played by Gene Hackman, wants to wipe out the West Coast and get all the new land that he's bought, kind of Nevada and the inner side of California. But Superman loses his love interest, Lois Lane, so she dies. But then he literally does a retrograde and he spins around the Earth. I think it's like 7 times. It goes back in time. It literally spins the Earth back. And the interesting thing about the numbers on that, Superman is 107, which is trumps, which is quantum, which is currency, which is atonement. It's also Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius, and we're going into that. Some say that we've started it already. But the retrograde and atonement and quantum and reversing it, that's incredible. Superman 107.
So I firmly believe they're time wars that are happening. They're ongoing. We see examples of it when we see the Mandela effect, which basically someone remembers something from a past and it doesn't fit. I've had so many instances of that. I feel that I'm involved in them in the space program. So there's a lot of memories of that come through for me. And I think a lot of people that are involved in those, especially if it's going into the past, distant past, like Civil War type stuff,
Yes.
because I have been Civil War generals. So if you're in one of those timelines where they're really trying to change something
Yeah.
from in the past, that's easier for someone in the space program to actually go in and have an effect, because you basically go in and use that energy of that time that you're involved in. So there was one time I was having a dream where I was basically doing that. I was being pulled back in time, and someone came in and tried to assassinate me in this life, and I think they were effective. But and I came up, and as I'm coming back to the surface, like, oh, I'm out of that dream type thing, I'm thinking to myself, well, is it going to mean that my children are going to be born? Am I going to wake up, everything's different? And they're like, and I got immediately, no, if it happens in this life, if they come in and take you out from a timeline in this life, or you're involved from this life, it doesn't affect you personally. So all kind of crazy things that, I think we're going to learn about the timeline wars, and kind of like the Superman stuff. I mean, we can go back. There's, physically we can go back in time, through some kind of spacecraft, technology and so forth, and have an effect on it. But like I said, I don't think it has an effect. Like we see a lot of times where if you get killed in a past lifetime, then all your stuff and everything changes. Yeah. I think there's something different on that's not being revealed. And I think I got that in a dream.
Wow.
Mm.
That's really interesting, Michael, what you just shared there, because timeline wars, and well, firstly, I'll do this one first, and then the secret space program. So timeline wars, timeline, time is 47, John. Line is 40, which is US. It's also RV, but that takes you to 87, which is truth, which is junior, which is stellar. Wars is actually 61, which is casino, is miracle. It's Don JR, but that comes to 148, which is simple gematria, which is time traveler, the American way to spell it with one L. Emmett Brown from Back to the Future, the time traveler, but it's also Donald J. Trump. It's also Project Bluebeam. We mentioned that before. And there was something else you added with it as well. You said the timeline wars, and also so the secret space program. So the numbers on that come to 235, which comes to it comes to President John Kennedy. It comes to time travel, magic power. It also comes to Barron William Trump, 235. And I was looking at Barron, and they're making notes saying that he's at 7 foot now. So when he was at Ivana's funeral service, they're saying he's 7 foot tall. And he's probably only, 16 years old or whatever age he is now, probably soon to be 17. But I've been thinking for a while that because of the numbers on it, that Barron Trump and Kennedy may somehow be connected. I don't know, maybe they're fractals of each other. I also get some possible correlation with Tesla and even Christ, even Jesus Christ. But I'm wondering, Janine, could we ask the question to the cards, is Barron Trump part of the secret space program? Because he's, 7 foot tall, he's Trump's son, and he's probably going to get taller, I'd have thought.
So I'll just add that I did a real deep dive on Trump's whole family.
Yes.
And just the long and short of it, you guys might remember, is that Trump isn't, the parents that they say are his parents are not the parents.
Yeah.
And he was sort of created, I'm thinking off-world.
Yeah.
He's like a hybrid.
Yeah.
And so is Barron.
Yes.
And so it was wild. It was like he was created, and he was also placed into a dark cult family. His family have dark cult connections, and of course rubbed shoulders with all those elites. But he wasn't compromised the way they compromised themselves, and they saw that they did good work with him. is what I got. And that's when they stepped up and told him what sort of they had planned for him. They being the white hats, and those white hats have been around for like, is probably as long as the dark hats.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, we can talk about, I want to question with Janine about the secret space program, which I think is more like the Hitler people guys, starts with an N. I don't want to mess up that.
Right, yeah.
But those guys, I think there's a separation. So those would be Black Hat SSP, and then there's a Galactic Council, Galactic Federation type that Trump is trying to make the connection with when he started Space Force.
Okay.
And that's basically to finally push all those dark SSP types out, because there's a lot of controls. There's all kind of different groups, the Kruger group, the Umbrella group. Now the Umbrella group was under, I believe.
Kruger, did you say Kruger group?
Yeah, there's all kind of crazy names for them. So there's a Kruger group, and so you might know something that kind of correlates with that. And there's all kind of different ones. But one of them was the Umbrella group, and that Umbrella group is basically on the day that Kennedy was assassinated, George Bush was there, and there was signaling that was going on with the umbrella. So so people noticed it, and I've had people on my show that talk about all about that stuff. They didn't know that I knew that was all like space connection, all kind of crazy stuff. But there's a lot of stuff that we're going to find out. So maybe after we do this, we can kind of look at some of that.
So you're asking if Barron Trump is connected to the secret space program?
That was my question. Yeah. So when Michael says he was part of this space program, I was assuming it was the secret space program, but I didn't know if they'd split. But the numbers secret space program. So I guess if there's a good version of the secret space program,
right,
it's Galactic now, but secret space program comes to 235, which comes to Barron William Trump, and it comes to President John Kennedy, and comes to magic powered time travel. Yeah.
So they recently told Barron, maybe he had to be a certain age or something, but he was recently told that that's their wish for him.
Okay.
And he's getting used to the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's been very recently informed about a lot of things that his family are connected to, and maybe what his dad's really been doing, and all kinds of, this is quite recent. He was kept in the dark. And they started informing him on getting around 14 years old, and they've been doing it slowly ever since to try to bring him in to the fold. Yeah, because he's obviously got a place. He's having he's at that awkward age anyway. He's having a little, like he's 80% there, but he's still got a little ways to go. So I think it's a yes down the road. It's their desire to. I don't think he's literally got a placement yet. He has to agree. He has to agree.
Oh, of course, yeah, he got it. Okay. Does he is there any connection you can see with the cards? Is there any connection with JFK and Barron? And also a second question to that, is there anything with Barron and Christ? Is there a Christ element or high, Christ consciousness element with him?
So we're doing JFK and Barron.
Please, yeah.
The connection.
So the thing on Barron, it could be because I did a show with Ishmael Perez, and he talked about as you go higher in dimensions, you become taller. So this kind of might fit in, with his height. That he's come in. He's a star being that's come in to help us make the transition to the higher consciousness realms, higher dimensional realms. I think that's another reason why there seems to be a lot of targeting, for the young ones. So that's interesting. So hopefully, I think he's going to be able to avoid having any problems, though.
Yeah, it feels like a big yes to me with that. Yes.
Yeah.
They seem to know each other.
Okay.
And they could even be related with that. So they have some kind of bloodline relation, because this card can be about relations.
Yeah.
So they have a relation, and it somehow connects through a feminine. So the mother. One of
Ah.
these mother connects, or a female connects them.
Okay.
bloodline. And they're also karmically connected, so entangled in their karma and why they're here and what work they're doing. Kind of like in a way we are,
Yes.
right? How
Yes.
we're even doing what we're doing together.
So there's a connection between Barron Trump and JFK. And is
Mhm.
there any connection between Barron Trump and Christ, or the person that was Christ, Jesus, whenever, or is it just a consciousness thing, or both? Or
Yeah, I've heard that Melania is a high level like Pleiadian.
yeah,
Yeah.
She was totally and very exquisite, sort of, but not human.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. That makes sense too, hey? Okay, I would say yes, because we've got sort of a soft yes and then a truth card. So there's truth to what you're saying.
uh-huh.
Okay, but I think it might have something to do with, so we've got this Three of Swords and something they were trying to snuff out. Surrender to bloodline.
Oh.
You know, they try to snuff out the Jesus bloodline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it has something to do, so I guess it goes through the bloodline somehow. There's connection, but I wouldn't say they're literally related, but they're in some similar bloodline. So they've got connection that way.
Okay.
Hmm.
One other last question with that, Janine, on this thing. Interestingly enough, bloodline comes to 88 when you do the numbers on that, which is Trump. But is there any connection, either energetically or directly, with Barron Trump and Princess Diana?
That was interesting, that picture of Trump with Melania, obviously wearing a big mask. Her head looked twice the size it should.
Yeah.
Like, what was that all about? What they were obviously showing you she's wearing a mask, whoever that is.
When was this? Was that recently?
Yeah, really recent. And I shared it and everybody was sharing it on Telegram. They're sitting down together and Trump's got his arms around Melania, but she's obviously, her face comes forward and is much bigger than it should be. And it looks like a mask and you can almost see two ears. So one of the ears is even showing a real ear. It's very interesting.
Interesting.
Okay, so tell me the question again.
The question was, is there a connection between Diana and Barron Trump?
So yes,
Okay.
they're very much soul connected. So there's a soul connection card and past lifely connected. They have a lot of joy and there's a lot of nurturing between the two of them. They enjoy each other's company. So they know each other really well. She's been a nurturing feminine figure, but I wouldn't say mother.
Okay.
I never get she is the mother, but I do get they're really close and have had lots of dealings with each other while he was growing up.
So,
Yeah.
so there's a soul connection, but also a physical connection in this earthly timeline. Okay.
Yeah, with that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take it one more step. So the picture that you showed on Telegram, I need to look that up, or send it to me if you get. I'd be curious to see that.
Did you see it, Michael? You know what I'm talking about, Michael? That picture?
I'm gonna pull up I'm looking at your Telegram. I'm looking through.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen it yet, but
yeah, it'd be quite a while ago. So I share a lot of stuff.
It's been a while. Okay.
Like today. But yeah, anyway, you guys, you'll see it later because it's been making the rounds. It's quite an interesting picture.
So that photograph of Melania, but not Melania because it looks like she's wearing a mask. Was it Diana under the mask? Let's ask that.
Okay, so we've got a soft yes, but how I'm going to read that is, I think they were calming and or alluding to that, but I'm not sure literally in that photograph that was. I think that was a photoshopped photo. So the cards are really literal. So it was alluding to that. Yeah. It was
I know
send you over there.
I know I said that would be the last one on it, but one other thought's come in. Has Diana ever played Ivana Trump in a mask? Has Diana ever played Ivana Trump?
Ivana?
Yeah, Ivana. Has Diana ever played Ivana Trump in a mask for whatever, they sometimes kind of interchange with characters just for either for fun or for comms.
Sorry, Betty is just yelling at me. My little black cat.
She's telling us, yeah.
She's telling me it's past her dinner time, is what she's telling me.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Okay, they wanted that to remain a secret.
Okay, I think the cat might have told us though.
For that to be hidden.
Okay.
Never mind.
Okay. Well, black comes to 29, which comes to Diana, and cat comes to 24, and you do a black cat, that comes to 53, which comes to Janine. So anyway,
Awesome. Oh, Michael, you were going to ask me some questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to run quick, so give me a couple.
All right,
questions.
yeah, we can make this last one. That'd be cool. The difference between the space programs, I believe there's a dark hat one and a white hat, but pretty much the dark hat's probably been controlled to a certain extent, because I have memories of having to work with the guys that were part of the Hitler group and not being very happy about it because they weren't up to our par, up to our speed. Because those of us in the white hat group, we train on Venus and some other places, and we're really high speed, but they're still locked in anger and fear and all that kind of stuff. So they're not as effective. So I was just wondering if that really is the case. And I've heard of a lot of people that are, in these programs like we were talking about. So they sound like dark hat programs. And then there's a separation that's been branching off and being more effective going forward.
So instead, I'm getting sort of information. So I'll just tell you what I'm getting. Okay. I get that you've been on both of those teams, even like unbeknownst and or not with your conscious permission, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
And you could have, like, what I get is you could have even been secreted to the bad one, and you were disappointed in being there.
Right. Okay.
So taken against your will. Interesting. And they tricked you is another way I can say it. So there's definitely two different space programs, and one's definitely run by some bad guys. And then the good one, I did get Venus energy around the good one, because we've got this 6. So 6 is very much a Libran card, and the 6, sign of the zodiac and whatever. So we've got Libran here, which is ruled by Venus. So so that's the 7th sign of the zodiac, but this particular card is very much about Libra and Venus. Okay, so we've got the lovers. So we've got that. You were in your incarnation, that is am I saying this right if I say Venetian?
Yes.
Okay. That's when you work for the good guy space program. Does that make any sense? Because you're altered from humanness. So you're not entirely the way you look right now.
Yeah.
You would be in a different, I guess, suit. Does that make sense? You wouldn't look.
Yeah, because there was I think there was a time where I was twinned. So by that twinning, they basically, because I have a conscious connection, because it was twinned from me, and they use that to be part of the space program. Yeah. And that part has come back and forth in time to inform me. So I think we did a show one time where I talked about how I was like, preteen, and I'm playing putt-putt with my friends, and me, like I am right now, but with some kind of like wild looking spacesuit, came through a portal. None of my friends saw it, and I'm like, does anyone know this? And I got telepathically that you're going to be okay. So I went through some tough times as a teenager, but you know, and who knows, maybe it was for this time too, because you know, I had that Archangel Michael experience as well. So
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks for that.
It gets wild. It gets wild when you start talking about this.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It does. Well, brilliant. Thanks, Janine. Thanks, Michael. That was really interesting and amazing. Lots of things come out there. So just a final thought. Any thoughts of encouragement as we go into maybe a hot August, maybe a nuclear August, I don't know, or at least the scare of it, and a hot summer and into a cold winter. But I mean, where do you think, you know, what would you say to the audience in terms of keeping the morale up and keeping spirits high?
Yeah, I think we're gonna get a lot of negativity. We're gonna have to deal with the next few months. But on the other side of that is always, I've always seen incredible and beauty and golden age and so forth. It'll be a process. It won't be like, you know, tomorrow it's a golden age. It will be a process, but it will be unfolding very quickly, because all the negativity that's always impacting us from every single level of our lives basically goes away, and we just start cleaning up and creating new. But yeah, there's I think that there's already been a stoppage of nuclear events. One of those was in New York. That's just my feeling. I don't have anything to confirm that, but I think it's already been stopped out once. But I think there's more in the works. But I think there's going to be stopped out too. I don't see any nuclear event, but there's going to be a threat. Maybe even I talked with a group one time where we thought that they might even stage it, even though they can't pull it off. They might stage it through Project Bluebeam type of technology and stuff like that, to actually seem like, you know, and then start broadcasting body counts and all kind of crazy stuff.
That's,
you know,
exactly what I got, Michael. Exactly. Oh, wow. They were turning off cameras on the buoys out in the ocean and stuff like that, because they're going to fake a big wave. It's all going to be staged, and there's going to be news reports, but it's a white hat op, and it's going to, like, because I guess they got to get people at some kind of heightened energy, and then out comes the truth and big truth bombs, and maybe even EBS and that kind of thing, because that's military. The good military steps out of the shadows, but it'll look really tricky for a while, and you won't know what's going on. So you got to just stay. So, and a lot of people are going to be in fear, anguish, and unnecessarily with that card. These are all minor arcana. They're not actually going to be in danger, but they're going to think they are and feel like they are. And they're going to make it look like other people have been perished in this. Okay. So it's going to be like, you'll think it's real if you're not one of the truthers, like you're going to think it's real. So what we have to do is stay a little bit detached and find safety, be around people that understand us, because everybody's going to be flipping out. You're going to have to be the calm in the storm. If you're the type who's really good at like being there for people when they're flipping out, I'm not. I get really anxious, so I'd rather not. Like, I'm good afterwards at calming everybody down or beforehand, but in the middle of a big event, I'm not the one you want around, because I'll be like, I get anxious when everybody's freaking out. I know the truth, but you know what I mean? So I'm personally going to plan to be finding some nature.
Yeah. Good.
And I won't, you have to think independently. I don't know where that card, oh, there it is. You have to think independently, and you might want to find an independent place. So you're going to hear all of these things. Government's going to try to round you up. It'll look like you're being told all of these things. So people that listen to things like that, they'll be doing all the things that the government tells them. Smart people will be knowing that this is all this is the thing. So you get yourself to somewhere that feels peaceful, comfortable, where you can just be yourself and ride it out. That's what you got to do. Or if you're the type who's really good in an emergency, when your friends are all flipping out, you might want to be there to calm them down if you think that's what you're good at.
Beautiful. Very nice.
So you see some kind of tsunami event, but fake. Is that what you're saying, Janine, with the buoys turned off out in the sea, etc.?
I think New York's gonna, but I think it could happen different ways all over the world. So there could be events in all of these areas. It's not just one thing that does the whole world. I felt like, so New York will experience this thing, but I think it'll be like white hat made, we'll say. So maybe some off-world help with that.
Yeah.
In fact, it did get off-world technology was going to create an illusion of a big water event. And then there could be events in different places, like you could have a nuclear event somewhere else where it appears to be, and you got the sirens going, and then there's going to be something else somewhere else, but all for the excuse to lock everybody down and bring out the good guy, or the white hats, and round up all the baddies that are left, and it a felt swoop, because they're going to have to do it fast.
Yeah. You know, the Georgia Guidestones went down. Have you looked at anything about the Washington Monument going down? One alludes to that on his third book, The Storm, and there's a picture of the needle basically being destroyed. I wonder if
that's literal or sort of
metaphorical.
Yeah.
If it's the Judgment Day event of some description.
Yeah. So that card popped out there. So this is sort of, it'll be a unique, maybe it won't be literal is what I'm getting.
Huh.
Maybe it'll be like the taking down of DC, but not maybe literal.
Okay. President Trump actually said just a couple of days ago, he talked about how beautiful Washington, D.C. is a city because of all its monuments. And he said he's going to, he said the way to deal with the the border crossings and people kind of just littering the streets of Washington, apparently, he said, is to make huge tents outside of the city and take care of them and get them off the streets. And he made a real point of saying how beautiful Washington, D.C. is as a city, as a capital.
Awesome.
All righty. Well, that's I think we'll wrap it up. But excellent, great to see both of you as always, and look forward to come before the storm on the 4th, and maybe something as early as the 1st. I don't know. But timelines change all the time. Maybe it's our own timelines. Who knows? But it's fascinating, and we'll get there. So, all right. Thanks, Michael. God bless you. And thank you, Janine. God bless you too.
Thank you, guys. God bless you guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye.